Hey guys, let's find out what's new in Etsy's business model as of Q3 23 investor update. So let's, as always, start with the financials. Let's say decent results, not overly fantastic, but anyway. So GMS up year on year by 1.2%. Certainly not earth-shattering, but keep in mind that during the COVID pandemic, they had a huge influx of buyers, as did many other e-commerce sites. So it is about kind of stabilizing and not losing those. And unlike some other e-commerce businesses, Etsy has done a decent result on that one. And as observed last time also, it's despite GMS going up by 1.2%, revenue went up by 7%. That in itself is a very decent result. And as we'll see, same explanation as last time. It's mainly due to service revenues. And we'll talk in a moment a bit more about that. These numbers are very all over the shop because, and that has to do really with the ELO 7 acquisition and deacquisition, if you wish. That's going to be flushed out of the system in another 1 or 2 quarters. The year-end results will be affected by it, but then pretty much from next year on, we'll have a clean slate on these numbers. And I have found, as also pointed out last time, even more so than last time. This column is the last quarter. So 19% growth of active sellers. They haven't really elaborated on that one. That could be a bit of a warning sign if sellers grow far more than buyers, because literally then the metric of revenue per seller will deteriorate, and that's not good because the incentives of being sellers deteriorate as such. It's a common thing that some are big winners and many are big losers, if you wish, on these kind of platforms. Let's see how that pans out. My theory is this has to do with the Depop acquisition, which is a sale of used clothing and apparel, and that this will normalize in the longer run. So let's observe that a few more quarters. But very, very interesting. Out of all numbers, probably this and this are the most interesting ones. Then Etsy's own statement, Etsy Marketplace remains pressured by a variety of external factors. So I think we know that. And I'll say a few more words. Consumers focused on essentials. Let's talk about that in a moment. Lower household incomes, weakness. We spoke about it last time. I think the elephant in the room is this one, a highly competitive environment. And if you looked at our last 2 Amazon updates, you've seen a few things that may concern Etsy a bit. You can check out those videos if you like. So let's move on. So as mentioned, GMS, the top line number, the overall transaction figure that's generated by the platform, grew by 1.2%, but revenue by 7%. And the main reason for that are the services components. So as mentioned last time also, we do not want to over monetize the sellers, but it is the playbook that many follow. And even Airbnb said that that's going to be one growth driver for them in future. So Etsy ads, the biggest driver, but if you compare it to the last quarter, the proportion has reduced, which is kind of good because there's other service components that are also playing a role in this. Very interesting. I do like Etsy's updates because they do have a lot of interesting metrics that they let us know and report on. As mentioned, the Depop, the ELO 7 acquisition and sales getting flushed out of the system, and so the numbers will normalize. Economics, key economic updates. So here, very interesting. There are 4 key verticals or sub-verticals, if you wish, and or categories. And they're saying compared to pure play US e-commerce peers, they've done significantly better. And this is the long list of those peers, just if someone's interested. Again, the elephant in the room, Amazon is not included in the list. They would also not have the data. This is, by the way, third-party data. And I did look at competitive edge. I'm not going to comment on these figures, to be honest. Sorry. You have to take these numbers with a grain of salt, but Amazon is not included. They would probably not have that category data because Amazon is a huge multi-category e-commerce business. So, and 75% of GMS generated by those 4 categories. Very interesting. Then, another really interesting metric is the GMS, and basically what I said in the beginning, the COVID anomalies are being flushed out of the numbers, and going forward this will be more interesting. Basically they managed to not lose too many buyers that came in during COVID. Active buyers, modest growth, I will say, 4% year on year. Well, again, many people joined during COVID, and they managed to kind of keep it stable. Going forward, one would hope that this figure is a bit higher, but they are, so as we will see in a moment, they are not just trying to get new active buyers, also monetize on the currently existing buyers. We'll come to that in a moment. GMS per active buyer is $127, and that's 25% higher than in Q3 4 years ago, pre-pandemic. However, as you can see, it has dropped also, and this is a really important metric because it also plays a role in terms of customer acquisition cost, and also just for the sellers, a very important metric. If the buyers buy less or smaller amounts, then the attraction of the platform for sellers does reduce. Then, so that's pretty much that. If you like our video, don't forget to hit the like button. Thank you. And this one I commented on. They are saying, yep, fantastic figures because they're benchmarking against the 2 years leading up to the pandemic. I am sure I mentioned I don't buy that metric. I don't believe it's a good benchmark. If we compare year on year, it is decreasing. But that's, let's see. Hopefully they will get rid of this benchmark and do something more meaningful in the future. But let's take it kind of at face value with a grain of salt. This one, the reactivation number, on the other hand, is definitely a good news story. 90% year on year, but generally a really upwards trend. So that is certainly a good news story. And it has been across all the quarters that we see here. Then again, really from our educational perspective, how we look at the metrics and which metrics are meaningful. These are certainly really meaningful metrics. Whichever way you describe and categorize habitual and repeat buyers, here are the definitions. Repeat buyers are those who made purchases on 2 or more days in the previous 12 months. Habitual buyers have spent more than $200 and made 6 or more purchases. So very interesting. You can define these slightly differently, but it is a very, very interesting metric to track. And it would also be great to know about Amazon Prime, to see these figures for Prime. I think the Etsy definitions would pale, but that's okay. Decent results certainly on the repeat buyers. Habitual buyers up 200% year on 4 year, but a generally downward sloping trend. Let's see how that develops further. So really interesting. Let's go to the business model section, and check out our article on our website. There's more details on all of what you see here, and what's highlighted yellow, that's what is covered in this update. Very cool updates I find in terms of the UI and UX. So basically, I think this update is interesting from a number of perspectives. So here the search term, look at this, back to school, look at the results. They're kind of bashing themselves up. You see that quite rarely, that someone talks so negatively about their own previous product, which probably in, let's say, go back a year or two, has probably been hailed as a fantastic innovation and now being pooed on. Now, certainly far more contemporary, firstly categorized, and then on a UX-wise, this is the vertical scrolling features, and then more importantly, so gift related to the search term, then other categories, backpacks. You'd be starting probably with the kind of the things that sell more, as well as the higher ticket items from a GMS perspective. And yeah, I haven't done any sort of tests myself, but yeah, it certainly is a meaningful update. Curation and AI-driven curation is very high on their agenda, and it makes a lot of sense from a value proposition perspective, as well as from a channel perspective, the app being more useful. So very cool. Then next one, stimulation of demand. So special purchase occasions. Etsy's always been like quite strong on that one. Gifts, weddings, baby showers, etc. That's where they see their customer segments, and that's where you can also charge more, than, let's say, it's a special gift, and people try to be a little bit more generous than with ordinary purchases. And more on that one, organizing the UX differently. They got tabs here. Well, I don't know who used this arrow, the Amazon arrow, which in the Amazon logo is a smile, going from the A to the Z. Someone had a lot of fun in the investor relation department. But yeah, so basically continuing on the theme of organizing the app better. And that's relevant because people who use the app are lower in terms of customer acquisition cost. So instead of having to, advertise and trying to rank high on the Google search results, if people use the app, that's direct traffic, and that is much lower customer acquisition cost and lifetime value. So if you're interested in those kind of things, check out our course, a 1-hour course plus 5 ebooks on Amazon and e-commerce, and download the BMap. Really, really very cost-effective way and time-effective way to learn about a business model. Then continuing on, again, I do like Etsy results, quarterly updates, because they do have a lot of meaningful metrics, whether or not what is behind these numbers and how these are measured. That's a different story. Whether these are always need to be taken with a grain of salt or not, that's anyone's judgment. But what they are measuring, that's for us important, and it makes a lot of sense. Reliability, literally, and convenience. Two very, very important value propositions for buyers. And certainly Etsy and other smaller players in e-commerce struggling with delivery. So they're basically now saying there is now almost all listings now have an expected delivery date. And that's a really good improvement from 3 years ago. The domestic orders, which have tracking information, well, those that are like over $10 worth, that have tracking information, almost 100%, again, makes a lot of sense. And Etsy is selling one of their service revenue items are tracking information, etc. So on-time delivery during holiday season, very important metric certainly, and accepts returns. Well, for a platform like Etsy, I think that's a decent number. And it's something that with Amazon Fulfillment by Amazon, many small sellers get upset about it because it does include a return policy that is not necessarily selectable. And Amazon, again, as always, sides with the buyers, and Etsy is a little bit different. So certainly very important from a seller perspective. This number, I don't know if it will go much higher because it is more small sellers on Etsy than large sellers. And let's not say that the higher the better. From a seller side, it also is going to be plateauing somewhere. We don't know where, but it's a decent, I think 40% is pretty decent for the large amount of small sellers. Moving on, delivery on time. Again, so money back guarantee, very, very strong, obviously. Then in terms of reliability strategy, concluding, I haven't changed this one from last time. The House of Brands, we'll see what the annual update will bring. Certainly Etsy and the Etsy marketplace. By the way, whenever the previous slides talk about the Etsy marketplace, they are literally talking about Etsy.com or the Etsy app as we know it. Whereas the Etsy company includes also Reverb, Depop, and also at Elo 7. I think these two definitely talk about unique items. Whether selling used clothing is really unique, that's a different thing. There's also jewelry, etc. on Depop. So somewhat, yes, somewhat to know. And yeah, if you want to learn more about Etsy, e-commerce, etc., as well as digital business models, check out our course. It's really giving you a lot of breadth on the topic of digital business models. So these were the updates this time around. And this disclaimer, it's no investment advice that we've given you. It is educational nature. Check out our T's and C's here if you're interested. Thanks very much.